posizione del Movimento 5 Stelle sul tema dell'Ucraina dice: guardi che è meglio vivere sotto una dittatura che morire. E cade la maschera e si fa strage in una parola di secoli di storia in cui libertà, democrazia e tutti i valori della nostra civiltà sono stati costruiti con il sacrificio di chi era pronto a sacrificarsi per costruirli. E si fa strage della scelta che hanno fatto Paolo Borsellino, Giovanni Falcone e quelli che hanno combattuto la mafia. Io non credo che sia meglio vivere sotto una dittatura che morire. Io penso che noi dobbiamo lavorare perché le persone possano vivere libere. Questa è la differenza tra quello che stiamo facendo noi e quello che proponete voi. Grazie.
This is my video update from Moscow, Russia on this Tuesday midday, July 25th. Let's talk about some news. And right now I am at the Kitai Gorod area of central Moscow, and let's discuss a possible Hungary exit from the European Union. Not probable, but possible, according to the former governor of the National Bank of Hungary. He said yesterday in an interview that a few years ago he would have put the chances of Hungary exiting the European Union at something like 10%. But today, given everything that's going on in the European Union and how the EU continuously targets Hungary and withholds funds from Hungary and interferes in Hungary's domestic affairs, he now puts a Hungarian exit at somewhere around 20 to 30%. So I thought that was an interesting statement from this former banking official. It would be fairly simple, or let's just say a lot easier, for a country like Hungary to leave the European Union, because Hungary is not part of the euro currency. So it would make a Hungarian exit from the EU a lot more simple than if a country like, say, Greece were to exit the EU, given that Greece has surrendered its financial sovereignty and its currency to the European Central Bank. So I don't see Hungary leaving the EU anytime soon. If ever, most likely the EU will collapse before a country like Hungary were to exit the European Union. But if it did decide to leave the EU, it would be difficult, but not as difficult if they had adopted the euro currency. Then an exit from the EU would be very, very tough. So anyway, that's the statement from the former National Bank governor. And the other day, the Russian military, they hit the port in Ukraine, the Reni port in Ukraine, which sits at the entrance of the Danube River, very close to Romania. And the New York Times actually ran a story connected to this drone strike from Russia hitting the Reni port. And they said, Russia strikes Danube port, escalating attacks on Ukraine grain. The assault across the river from Romania heightened the risk of a more direct confrontation with a NATO member and came on the same day that drones struck buildings in Moscow. So this Reni port was one of the last, if not the last ports that Ukraine was using to ship grain and wheat and other food products to the European Union because of its proximity to Romania. But I have a suspicion, a hunch, that a lot more than wheat and grain was being shipped via this Reni port. I imagine that much like the ports in Odessa, Ukraine may have been shipping wheat and grain out of this port into Romania, and then the grain making its way to EU buyers. But I would not be surprised if they were also moving in weapons and perhaps fuel and other resources that the Ukraine military uses to fight the conflict with Russia. And I would imagine, and this is just a hunch, I would imagine that that is the reason why Russia targeted this port with drones. Now, Anthony Blinken, he had to call the Romanian foreign minister, I believe he called the foreign minister, to calm Romania down because Romania had a bit of a freak out, a bit of a panic when the Russian drones attacked this port close to Romania's borders. And Anthony Blinken, he had to speak with his Romanian counterpart and assure Romania that the United States is 100% committed to NATO and that the U.S. will protect, as Blinken phrased it, protect every inch of NATO territory. They like to say that, don't they? We're going to protect every inch of NATO territory, every single itsy bitsy little inch of NATO territory we're going to defend and protect that. The State Department spokesman, Matthew Miller, he also said the same thing as Poland was freaking out over the fact that Wagner is in Belarus and that you have tactical nukes in Belarus. And Department spokesman Matthew Miller yesterday, he also wanted to reassure Poland that the United States is going to protect their NATO allies, every inch of NATO ally territory, unless, of course, you're bombing gas pipelines, then that gets a pass. Bombing gas pipelines is not included in that every itsy bitsy little itty bitty inch of NATO territory. If you attack gas pipelines, it doesn't count. But everything else counts. Everything else counts when it comes to protecting every inch of NATO territory. So yeah, Blinken had to reassure his Romanian counterpart that the United States has Romania's back. So that was the statement from Blinken to Romania. And Matthew Miller, during his statement when he was talking about protecting every inch of Polish territory, he also said that the United States and the collective West, they have given Ukraine a whole ton of stuff, money, military aid. He said that they've given Ukraine just about everything they could possibly give it so that it could launch a successful counteroffensive. So he doesn't really know why Ukraine is complaining about a lack of vehicles and tanks and training and cash and stuff like that. But according to the Department of State, they've given everything that Ukraine needs so that they can be successful on the battlefield. But the State Department spokesman, he did say that even though the collective West feels like they have given Ukraine all the tools that they need to win this conflict, they are going to to continue to provide more and more weapons and money to the Zelensky regime, except for ATACMS. The Zelensky regime is not going to get long-range missiles, U.S. ATACMS. That is not going to happen. This is according to the Washington Post, according to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal. All of the collective West media outlets are reporting that the Biden White House is souring on the idea of long-range missiles to Ukraine for two reasons. The first reason, cited by much of the collective West media, is that the United States simply doesn't have that many ATACMS. It doesn't have a big supply of long-range missiles, and it doesn't want to deplete whatever inventory it has of ATACMS in the conflict in Ukraine with Russia. So one of the reasons it's not going to give ATACMS is a supply inventory reason. And another reason cited for not providing long-range missiles to Ukraine, U.S. long-range missiles to Ukraine, because the UK has given long-range missiles. France has given or is about to give long-range missiles to Ukraine, but the U.S. is saying that they don't want the ATACMS missiles to fall into the hands of the Russian military, and they don't want the Russian military to study the tech that goes into the U.S. ATACMS long-range missiles. So, according to the State Department spokesman, Ukraine has everything they need to win. He doesn't understand why they're complaining, but even though everything has been given to the Zelensky regime, more will be given, except for long-range ATACMS missiles. That is where we are. And Putin and Russia, they are going to kick off, I believe tomorrow, the second annual Russia-Africa summit. And during this summit, the Russian government will be talking to the African representatives and the African nations about wheat, grain, food. And Russia says that they're going to be able to provide African partners with very cheap food at very competitive prices, if not free. They'll also be able to provide wheat and grain to the nations that need it most for free. And then the Russian government also announced that they have plans to open up a Russian embassy in every country in Africa. So they're going to deepen their connection and their presence in Africa with an embassy in every African nation. So that's going to be a very interesting summit that is going to be taking place, I believe, today and tomorrow, either the 25th and 26th or the 26th and 27th. It's a 2-day summit. I believe it's tomorrow. It's the 26th and the 27th, actually, that the Russia-Africa summit is going to kick off. So expect a lot of big announcements from this summit. I'll report on the big announcements. The collective West is not going to report on the ever broadening and deepening relationship between Russia and the nations of Africa. So from Africa, we can travel to America. From Africa, let's take a little walk in this park in Kitai-Gorod. We can go to the United States of America, and we now have the news that Devon Archer is going to be testifying to Congress. Now, Devon Archer is Hunter Biden's roommate, I believe, from university. Or was he Christopher Hines' roommate in university. Anyway, all of these guys were connected. I forgot whose roommate he was in university, but basically Carrie's stepson, Hines, of the ketchup fame. Hines, Archer, and Hunter, they were involved in Ukraine and Burisma. And Devin Archer, he's actually facing a prison sentence for various, I believe, like financial crimes. And he's fighting those charges. But either today or tomorrow, he's going to actually be testifying in Congress in connection with Burisma. So Devin Archer has got a lot of stuff going on. But real quick, before I get into the Devin Archer story, this is the monument to the Greek saints and the Greek monks, Methodios and Kirill, who created the Cyrillic alphabet. And these monks, these Greek monks from Thessaloniki, they created this alphabet. I believe it has its roots in regions in Bulgaria, and that's where much of this alphabet developed. And then it was adopted throughout most of Eastern Europe and Russia, and most of the Slavic countries. They adopted the Cyrillic alphabet. The Cyrillic alphabet, Slavonic, and this is the language that is now used in most of Eastern Europe, and of course all of Russia. So that is the monument of the brothers. They're actually brothers of Methodios and Kirill, the Cyrillic alphabet. So what was I saying? Devin Archer. Let's see, Devin Archer. Yeah, so he's going to be testifying. He's going to be testifying to Congress about what was going on with Hunter Biden and with Joe Biden and Burisma, because he was intimately involved in all of this. Now, I believe Christopher Hines, Carrie's stepson, I believe he's kind of said that I had nothing to do with any of this. So I think he's kind of detached himself from all of this. And I think he did that like 3-4 years ago. So he was smart. He said, I have nothing to do with this. Yes, we were all kind of poking around in Ukraine or buddies in university or something like that. But he's like, I have nothing to do with any of these things. I do think he had some sort of connection to the venture firm Rosemont Seneca. But that's the story with Hines. I'm not quite sure as to all the details, but I know that he's detached himself from this Burisma business. But Devin Archer and Hunter Biden, they absolutely sat on the board of Burisma. Devin Archer was also a board member. And, he knows where the bodies are buried. I guess that's what I'm trying to say in a roundabout way as I ramble on and on. The main point here is that Devin Archer, someone who is already facing criminal prosecution for other crimes, alleged crimes, he's going to reveal where all the bodies are buried in relation to Burisma. And Speaker of the House McCarthy, he was actually speaking to Fox News the other day, and he said that the House is preparing impeachment for Joe Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son, all connected to this Burisma stuff. Because, Joe Biden, he's on record many times, multiple times, saying that he had no knowledge of any business activities of his son. He had nothing to do with his son's business activities. I mean, he's said this on multiple occasions, and that's being proven to be false. And Devin Archer, he says that there was one instance, and this is what he's going to say to Congress, is that there was one instance where he was hanging out with Hunter, I believe in, I want to say Dubai, but I might be wrong about that. But he was hanging out with Hunter, and he was hanging out with some other executives, I think executives from Ukraine or from Burisma, and they were like worried about all the heat that was coming down on Zlochevsky. And so one of the Burisma executives, I forgot the guy's name, he told Hunter Biden, "Get your dad on the phone and let's clear this up." He's like, "Call your dad and let's clear this up." I believe the executive's name was Plocharsky or something like that. He was a very high level official in Burisma, and he told Hunter Biden, "Look, get your dad on the phone and let's get this Shokin, this prosecutor guy, to lay off of Zlochevsky." And 2 weeks earlier, you actually had the U.S. ambassador Jeffrey Pyatt, who at the time was the ambassador in Ukraine at the time. He actually talked about the corruption of the oligarchs, and I think he actually named Zlochevsky, like he actually called out Zlochevsky by name. And so Zlochevsky, who was the founder of Burisma, he was kind of on the run. He was running from prosecution in Ukraine, running from Shokin, and he was hiding out in Dubai. And Shokin had seized like 4 properties, a Rolls Royce, and all kinds of cash from Zlochevsky, the Burisma founder. And this was stated by Pyatt. Pyatt was talking about this. He's the ambassador who was talking to Nuland. Remember the FDEU phone call? That's the guy. And he was talking about the corruption of oligarchs in Ukraine. And then 2 weeks later, Hunter Biden is hanging out with these guys. And they tell him, "Look, call your dad and fix things up with Zlochevsky so he can get this heat removed from him." And according to Devin Archer, Hunter called up Pops, and that was it. That was that. Like a month later, you had Biden in front of Poroshenko in Kiev, telling him, "Look, you're not going to get the billion unless you lay off of Burisma." and that was it. And so this is what Devin Archer is going to talk about. Is all of this stuff, and he was there, he was present. You know, you have a witness who was there and was hearing all of this stuff talked about and discussed, and I'm sure he knows about all the inner workings of Burisma as well. And it's not looking good for Bidenopoulos, Greece's favorite son. It is not looking good at all. So this monument in Kitay-Gorod is the monument for the war with Turkey in I believe the Bulgarian town of Plevna. And this is a monument, a chapel actually, dedicated to the Russian soldiers that fought against the Turkish military in Plevna, in Kitay-Gorod. So we can now get to a clown world, I think. Devin Archer, call your dad. Call your dad, Hunter, and clear it all up. Man, oh man. So we have a clown world courtesy of Foreign Policy magazine with the title, "Sanctions haven't stopped Russians from having their fun in the sun. Boeing aircraft are still flying tourist routes from Moscow to Turkey, Egypt, and Thailand, and they're refueling and possibly getting repairs en route. How dare the Russians enjoy summer holidays? How dare they fly to other countries? How dare they?" So this article from the FP, they're basically saying that Russians should not be allowed to fly to other countries, and this means that the sanctions are not working. And they also claim that while these aircraft are in Egypt or Turkey or Thailand, they're also getting repairs while they're flying tourists to these destinations. And the article also says that the collective West is putting pressure on these countries to not allow Russian tourists to enter their countries to holiday and to not allow the aircraft to land in their airports. These countries, Egypt, Turkey, Thailand, they're telling the collective West to buzz off. That's pretty much what this article is saying. And this article is furious, actually. It's upset at the fact that the sanctions are not working and Russians are still able to fly to various holiday destinations, and they're allowed to enjoy their summer and to enjoy their holidays, which is in contrast to the article that I talked about a couple of days ago, which says that that Germans are now unable to go on holiday because of the economic situation and the cost of living crisis. And Annalena 360 Baerbock, she told the German citizens to stop complaining. Stop complaining about the fact that you can't go on holiday this summer, because Annalena Baerbock believes that Germany should support Ukraine for as long as it takes, even if it means that German citizens are not able to enjoy a summer holiday. This is according to Annalena Baerbock. Remember, it was Annalena who said that she doesn't really care what the German voter thinks. remember that statement from Annalena? And she's backing up her words with action. So the sanctions are not working. Russians are still able to travel abroad, and they're able to enjoy their summer holidays at various destinations. Citizens of the European Union, not so much, because they have a cost of living crisis. And yeah, good job, Ursula and the European Union. How about a 12th sanctions package? let's get a 12th sanctions package going. By the way, the whole oil price cap thing, that has also fallen apart. The word is that that oil is now above the $60 ceiling that the collective West and the G7 nations, they placed on Russian oil. And people are still buying the Russian oil, even though it is selling at above the $60 price. The sanctions aren't working. The price caps are not working. The price ceilings are not working. Nothing's working. But they're still going to do more of the same. Anyway, that is the video, everybody. theduran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, ODYSEE, BitChute, and Rockfin, as well as Telegram. And go to the Duran shop. Use the code GOODDAY, 10% off all merch. Today I am wearing my Duran t-shirt with the flag of Bulgaria. Take care.